That night, independent television news, ITN, took to the air for the first time.
Good evening.
Crisis night at Britain's power stations, and with the Go Slow campaign due to start in less than 9 hours' time, there's still no sign of a peace move.
And now it's time for the first of those programmes, the news from ITN. Your newscaster Leonard Parkin, a time check for you. It's exactly 5:45.
The news at 5:45 with Leonard Parkin.
The battle for bargain basement flights to Europe. The Labour Party inquiry, another victory for the left-wingers. The Rovers return and the other ITV regulars are back. Good evening.
The miners call a 24-hour strike on September the 22nd. The mafia are blamed for the murder of an Italian police chief. And Cha-Cha, London Zoo's giant panda, becomes a reluctant father. Good evening.
The news from ITN.
Doctors hit back at the government over the NHS. Geldof says 5 million could starve to death in Ethiopia. The men from Lords fly to Pakistan to support Mike Gatting. And down but not out, the micropilot heading down under. Good evening. There's more concern about the National Health Service than ever before.
Good evening, the news and sport from ITN. Tonight's headlines: ceasefire in Srebrenica as the UN prepares an airlift. Celebrations in Los Angeles after 2 policemen are found guilty in the Rodney King beating trial. And a senior South African politician is arrested in connection with the killing of Chris Harney.
And tonight's main sports headline: Mark Hughes tightens Manchester United's grip on the Premier League title.
All sides in the Bosnian conflict are waiting to see if a new ceasefire, due to come into effect a few minutes ago, will hold through the night.
From the studios of ITN, the news with Nicholas Owen.
Good evening, welcome to the programme. Tonight's headlines: Linda McCartney dies of cancer at 56. Blair's new peace success in talks with Israel's leader. And the newest attempt to go around the world in 80 days. Linda McCartney has lost her long fight against cancer.
From ITN, the ITV Evening News with Trevor McDonald.
It's 6:30 on Friday evening. Tonight's headlines: NATO makes its first daylight strikes against Serb targets. The NATO pilot's view of a successful raid. Refugees from Kosovo tell of new atrocities. And hello, old friend, Thatcher greets Pinochet. Good evening. NATO forces launched their first daylight attacks on Yugoslavia today.
Bosses could face jail over faulty rail behind Hatfield crash.
New campaign to reassure parents over MMR vaccine.
Kilshaws, we may be eccentric, but we're still good parents.
And the winner is how Liz Taylor jumped the gun at Film Awards.
From ITN, the ITV Evening News with Dermot Murnaghan and Mary Nightingale.
Good evening, welcome to the programme. Revealed how he did it, the shocking truth about the royal intruder.
The events do display a real need to tighten up at every level.
Facing the music, Spin Doctor's dramatic U-turn over Blair's dodgy dossier.
Live fast, die young, a worrying message for all women.
And Wimbledon's great shock, seed 1 out on day 1.
The ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Katie Derham.
Good evening. Shamefaced and deeply apologetic, the police today admitted.
Battleground Basra. British troops tell ITV News the city is spiralling out of their control.
We came under attack from the side, what looked like to be an ambush, rocket-propelled grenades, small arms fire, blast bombs.
A new crisis in Iraq as our troops face the constant threat of ambush.
Also tonight, up and up, record oil prices to hit us all in the pocket. Pedal Medal, the Briton who raced to victory in the cycling. And Junior Doctor, how this 4-year-old's quick thinking saved his mum.
Good evening. An ITV News team has seen firsthand how the British military is losing the battle for control of Basra.
Too traumatised to talk, 3 of this man's sons are suspects in the global terror plot. Speaking exclusively to ITV News, he swears his children are innocent. Tonight, as the faces of the alleged terrorists are revealed, we bring you interviews with their families and friends to ask, are they the enemy within? Faisal Hussain told ITV News his suspect sons showed no signs of being radicalised, yet they and 21 others are accused of plotting mass murder. Tonight we investigate how British-born men who loved Liverpool FC and burger and chips could have turned to terror.
Also on the programme, timetable to terror. ITV News has learned details of when the terrorists plan to attack. We'll have the latest. And in other news, taking it to the brink, Israel orders more troops into Lebanon as the UN intensifies its push for a peace deal. And bye-bye Beckham. Will we ever see the most famous man in football in an England shirt again?
Good evening. His 3 sons are tonight accused of being terrorists at the centre of a plot that would have killed thousands, an attack to rival 9/11 itself.
Arrested for murder, the care home couple suspected of killing 5 of their pensioner residents. 3 bodies have been exhumed amid police suspicions they may have been poisoned by Rachel and Lee Baker. The question tonight, did they kill those they were supposed to protect? Elderly people are some of the most vulnerable in society. Tonight, a couple whose nursing home was supposed to care for those most in need are suspected of doing exactly the opposite. We will have the latest.
Also on the programme, pledging support, Gordon Brown's message to the troops as they continue their assault against the Taliban. In disguise, the missing canoeist, as police hope you may have seen him before.
People may have seen him when he looked like this. People may have known him as John Jones.
And abuse online, the computer games that leave your children open to horrific insults.
The most racist remarks you can hear. I don't want to repeat them, but the N-word is one of the main ones.
Good evening. They were entrusted with a heavy responsibility, the care of elderly people too frail to look after themselves.
Let him die in prison. Tonight, the anger of American families at suggestions that the Lockerbie bomber could soon be freed.
This man killed 270 people. He's getting medical treatment in Scotland. Oh, whoa, so sad. Why aren't you sorry for me?
US government officials say al-Megrahi should serve his full sentence and die in jail. But ITV News has learned that it's his prison governor who's recommended his release on compassionate grounds.
Also on the programme, staying put despite his gaffe over MP's expenses, the Tory Alan Duncan is saved from the chop. A major fashion chain is found guilty of harassing a disabled employee. And put the kettle on why a cup of tea can do so much more than merely quenching your thirst.
Good evening.
One of the bravest of the brave, the bomb disposal expert killed in Afghanistan just days before he was due home for a family visit.
When we get to the target end, after the longest walk, if you like, we're mentally focused and ready to take on the challenge of dealing with the job in hand.
This is the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary Nightingale and Alistair Stewart.
Staff Sergeant Olaf Schmid died disarming a Taliban bomb. His wife said she took comfort from knowing he'd saved countless lives. Also tonight, the life or death battle between two parents in court to decide if their baby son's life support should be switched off.
Beaten to death by a gang of thugs, the victim of a shocking Halloween attack.
And 500,000 reasons to say thank you. Sophie's appeal raises the £500,000 she needs for cancer treatment.
Good evening. During his tour of duty in Afghanistan, Staff Sergeant Olaf Schmid disarmed 64 Taliban bombs. The staggering range and reach of Savil's sex abuse revealed. Tens of locations, hundreds of victims.
I think we were all taken in. You could say he groomed a nation.
This is the ITV News at 6:30 with Natasha Kaplinsky and Alistair Stewart.
Across the country, at hospitals, a hospice, schools and the BBC, the entertainer hid under the cloak of celebrity. Those who could and should have stopped him failed.
Also on the programme, a double jobs blow. 800 workers at Honda to go as the Eurozone crisis hits demand for new cars.
At Jessop's, nearly 1,400 jobs are lost. At all its shops are shut.
And Kate says her first portrait's amazing. Amazingly bad, say most of the critics.
Hello, good evening. A senior policeman used the language of those who spend their lives investigating sex abusers. Inside Raqqa, a special report tonight from the capital of Islamic State's caliphate. A unique view of the fierce fighting to free the city as our correspondent travels with Kurdish forces.
Ahead of them now, heavily armed ISIS fighters, booby-trapped buildings and suicide bombers. ISIS may be doomed, but its death throes will be long and dangerous.
So what will the fall of Raqqa mean for the terror threat in the UK? Also tonight, the Grenfell disaster. The government sends in a task force as residents still wait for homes. New hope for Charlie Gard. Europe's politicians say the baby should be allowed abroad for treatment.
I feel properly dressed now.
And a special surprise for the blind D-Day veteran who lost his war medals.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a special report from the front line in the battle to oust so-called Islamic State from its power base in Syria.